A cement truck pulled in. Burkina Faso's largest industrial player has just made a move that could significantly impact the lives of 2 million displaced people. But why now? Why cement? And what does this mean for the future of the country? Let's find out. When the gates of the Ministry of Humanitarian Action opened in early July 2025, no one expected what rolled in next. A heavy-duty convoy marked CIMAF, Ciment de l'Afrique Burkina Faso, began unloading a haul that would soon dominate national headlines. 500 tons of cement, already on site, with another 500 tons en route. It wasn't just a donation, it was a statement. A 100 million FCFA lifeline, quietly handed over with the weight of urgency and the whisper of revolution. The recipient, Commandant Pelagi Kabore, Minister of Humanitarian Action, stood firm as she received the consignment. No speeches, just determination. She knew exactly what this meant. In her words, this wasn't about charity, it was about restoring the future. And in the context of Burkina Faso's ongoing humanitarian disaster, the timing couldn't have been more critical. To the casual observer, cement might seem like just another industrial material. But in today's Burkina Faso, cement equals survival. Behind every ton lies a blueprint, a home waiting to rise, a school waiting to reopen, a health clinic that could serve hundreds. This donation is expected to lay the foundation, quite literally, for a massive reconstruction drive targeting over 50,000 destroyed homes. The very homes that once held together communities now scattered by war and displacement. CIMAF's involvement did not come from obligation. It came from strategic alignment with the state's vision. This is a new era under President Ibrahim Traoré, one defined not by dependence on international aid, but by mobilizing domestic strength. His call for national solidarity, echoed in multiple addresses over the past year, was aimed at companies just like CIMAF, embedded in the economy, profiting from the land, and now asked to give back, substantially, not symbolically. The company answered, "By the way, we have launched merch that honors the African leaders who are taking a stand for Africa. Check them out, to show you also stand with loyal sons of Africa, no matter where you are." The delivery took place under tight logistics. According to ministry officials, the first 500 tons will be immediately dispatched to construction hubs in Nagrengo and Bobo Dioulasso, where the state has initiated its first wave of 1,000 permanent homes for internally displaced persons (IDPs). The cement will be used to lay solid foundations, no temporary shelters, no tent cities, real enduring structures designed to reintegrate displaced families into safe, functioning communities. Each bag of cement is accounted for. Technical teams on site have been tasked with ensuring transparency, a rare but necessary practice in a country where the line between donation and disappearance has sometimes blurred. For the government, this donation must succeed not only in bricks and mortar, but as a model of how private-public partnerships can rescue a collapsing humanitarian landscape. And there's more to this gesture than meets the eye. Sources within CIMAF suggest that this is only the beginning. While the current donation totals 1,000 tons, insiders hint at a possible long-term collaboration with the ministry to provide materials for schools, public sanitation projects, and even localized infrastructure in zones reclaimed from insurgent control. Analysts are calling this move a quiet power play, a moment where an industrial giant chooses to align itself with a revolutionary government agenda rather than play it safe in the private sector. And for citizens watching from overcrowded IDP camps, it sends a simple, profound message: you are not forgotten. What makes this delivery even more mysterious is its lack of political fanfare. No long press conferences, no PR campaigns, just trucks, materials, and execution. The silence speaks volumes. It reflects a shift away from aid that announces itself through slogans and towards support that simply arrives and builds. Now, the question isn't whether CIMAF's cement will build homes, it will. The question is, what else will follow? Will other companies step in? Will this create a ripple effect across West Africa's private sector? Let's pause for a second to say, big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. It's easy to look at 1,000 tons of cement and see raw weight, numbers, logistics, bags on pallets. But in Burkina Faso's current crisis, this isn't just about building material, it's about political material. It's about constructing a new social contract, one that's been ripped apart by years of conflict, dislocation, and distrust. And this cement donation? It's one of the first visible signs that this rebuilding won't come from international saviors, but from within. Burkina Faso is not suffering from a lack of aid proposals. Global organizations have long pledged millions to the Sahel. But between pledges and pavement lies a massive credibility gap. Promises made in conference halls never reach the villages and are turned to dust. Aid budgets vanish into bureaucracies. Projects get delayed. Meanwhile, families sleep under tarpaulins in flood zones, and children grow up never knowing the feel of solid walls. This is why the CIMAF donation struck a nerve. It bypassed the waiting game. No middlemen, no foreign terms and conditions, just direct material injection into a state-led solution. And what makes it more revolutionary is not the volume of cement, but the power shift it represents. For years, reconstruction efforts in the Sahel have been shaped by external frameworks. They come with Western-designed blueprints, prefab shelters, NGO-led programs, short-term fixes masquerading as recovery. But this time, Burkina Faso's government is laying out its plan, led by its ministry, using domestic materials, and fueled by national corporate participation. And that's a radical change. By donating cement instead of cash, CIMAF ensures that its contribution cannot be diverted, delayed, or diluted. It's tangible. It forces action. The government must use it or explain why they didn't. It's accountability baked into the structure itself. And for the public, it's a morale boost. People are seeing cement piles, not spreadsheets. They see trucks rolling in, not tweets about awareness. This is also a matter of economic signaling. In choosing to donate products rather than money, CIMAF is reaffirming its stake in the domestic economy. It's saying, we don't just make profits here, we live here. We rebuilt here. We bet on this country rising. That kind of declaration, coming from a private company, has a ripple effect on market confidence, public trust, and national morale. Then there's the psychological layer. For displaced families, many of whom have been living in tents for over 5 years, this cement means permanence. Not just shelter from the rain, but a return to normal life, a physical address, a foundation to anchor their identity, a sense that they can begin again. When you've lost everything, even one wall going up means the world isn't finished with you yet. It also means rebalancing national narratives. Too often, displacement zones are written off as humanitarian problems, not development zones. That means they're treated as temporary, unworthy of serious investment. But this donation reframes that logic. It treats IDPs as citizens, not charity cases, as people whose return to dignity is a nation-building priority, not a favor. And in this reframing lies the power. The Ministry of Humanitarian Action now holds not only the cement, but a responsibility to use it efficiently, fairly, and transparently. Because in this new paradigm, mismanagement doesn't just waste money, it wastes trust. And that trust is the rarest resource in post-conflict reconstruction. There's also a subtle message here. The age of symbolic gestures is over. Material donations, not moral applause, are what matter now. Cement, bricks, water pipes, these are the tools of sovereignty. They're how nations stand up after being pushed down. CIMAF, by making this kind of donation, has chosen to play that role. But the question now is, was this a one-time gesture or the beginning of a broader movement? Because if cement is step one, what comes next? Will other sectors follow? Will energy companies provide solar units? Will telecom firms expand signal towers to resettlement zones? Will banks finance housing reconstruction for returnees? Burkina Faso has laid the first brick. Now the nation is watching who builds the next wall. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Cement can't speak. But if it could, the 1,000 tons donated by CIMAF would echo a message far louder than any press conference. Burkina Faso is done waiting. And at the center of this seismic shift is one man, President Ibrahim Traoré, whose leadership has torn up the old rulebook on how African nations respond to crises. In a continent long conditioned to plead for aid, Traoré has chosen a different path, a doctrine rooted in self-reliance, national dignity, and the mobilization of internal strength. He hasn't hidden it either. Speech after speech, policy after policy, he's driven one idea home. No one will build Burkina Faso except Burkinabe. That's not just rhetoric. It's become a political weapon. And the CIMAF donation, though corporate in nature, is in many ways an extension of that ideology. Traoré has made it politically desirable, even necessary, for local companies to publicly align with the state's reconstruction mission. Not through endorsements, but through action. Material action. Nation-building action. This isn't just about rebuilding homes. It's about rebuilding political legitimacy. And Traoré knows that after years of state absence in conflict zones, trust must be earned back with concrete results, quite literally. Roads must be paved, clinics must be opened, schools must be restored. And this time, it must be done not with NGO logos plastered on plastic tarps, but with national flags flying over permanent structures. What we're seeing is the birth of a new development model, one that sidesteps traditional Western dependency structures. Under Traoré's leadership, humanitarian crises are no longer seen as chaotic side effects of war. They are treated as opportunities to reassert sovereignty. When the state builds homes for its displaced, it's not just providing shelter, it's reclaiming its role as protector and provider. This is also deeply strategic. Every home built by the government in a conflict zone is a political firewall. It weakens insurgents' claim that the state has abandoned the people. It restores loyalty to the central government. It disrupts the narrative of helplessness that insurgents exploit to recruit. That's why the timing of CIMAF's donation, and the state's rapid deployment of it, isn't just humanitarian. It's counterinsurgency by concrete. And Traoré's doctrine doesn't stop with infrastructure. It extends into the psychology of nationhood. In a country fractured by displacement and fear, the president is pushing a culture of national pride, rooted not in past colonial narratives or borrowed Western slogans, but in tangible domestic victories. A school reopened in the Sahel, a borehole dug by Burkinabe engineers, a home built by a Burkinabe company. Every success story becomes a brick in a larger structure of national redemption. This too explains the silence around the CIMAF donation. No grandstanding, no orchestrated celebration, just results. It mirrors the tone Traoré has adopted since taking power. Action first, applause later. In this doctrine, politics is not about handshakes and ceremonies, it's about material transformation. Citizens don't need promises, they need roofs. Behind closed doors, sources suggest Traoré is quietly pushing for other sectors to follow suit. Energy, mining, banking, no one is exempt. The new expectation is clear. If you operate here, you build here. Not as charity, but as proof that your company is part of the national project. It's a subtle threat wrapped in patriotism, and companies are listening. There's also a calculated economic logic here. Traoré understands that local procurement, local labor, and local materials keep money circulating within the national economy. It creates jobs, grows GDP, and reduces external leverage. A self-feeding loop of resilience. 1 ton of cement, sourced locally, does more for the economy than 10 tons of donated foreign aid. But the stakes are high. If this model fails, if corruption seeps in, or delivery lags, or houses collapse, it could discredit the very doctrine it seeks to prove. That's why every truckload matters. Every wall erected must stand not only physically, but symbolically, as proof that Burkina Faso can take care of its own. And yet, none of this means anything unless the cement actually reaches the people. Ideologies don't house people. Political doctrines, no matter how inspiring, don't shield a child from the rain. That burden falls on the builders, masons, engineers, planners, the quiet army of Burkinabe hands now racing against time to turn CIMAF's 1,000 tons of cement into habitable homes. The process is anything but symbolic. Once the cement was delivered, the Ministry of Humanitarian Action activated its Reconstruction Task Force, a decentralized body made up of local contractors, provincial engineers, and site supervisors already embedded in displacement hotspots like Negrengo, Bobo Dioulasso, and soon, Dori and Kaya. These are not government employees on a salary. They are the faces of the very communities that have suffered loss. Many of them, displaced themselves, are now being trained and paid to build their own villages back from scratch. And that's by design. Rather than importing labor from outside or outsourcing to foreign firms, the government's model centers on community-led construction. It's not just more efficient, it's healing. When a man helps build the home his neighbor will live in, the recovery is not just structural, it becomes social. Each site begins with what officials call rapid foundation drills. These are 48-hour operations where trucks, mixers, and crews descend on the designated plot and pour the concrete for an entire row of houses before the cement even has a chance to cool under the Sahel sun. Speed is essential, not just because of the rainy season, but because thousands are still sleeping under plastic sheets, exposed to heat, disease, and violence. But this isn't just a race, it's a test of system capacity. Every bag of cement is tagged and logged. Every delivery is geo-tracked. The ministry has set up an emergency oversight dashboard to monitor flow from warehouse to wheelbarrow, ensuring that none of the donated material disappears into the informal market. It's a clear break from the past, when donated resources, food, medicine, even tents, were often intercepted, diluted, or sold off before ever reaching their intended recipients. There's also architectural strategy at play. The houses being built are not uniform refugee camp boxes. Each region has been given design autonomy based on local climate and culture. In Nagrengo, for example, homes use open courtyard layouts with shared kitchen spaces, reflecting the communal lifestyle of the region. In Bobo, thick walls and high roofs combat intense heat. These are homes, not shelters, meant to anchor families for decades, not months. Moreover, the state is incorporating basic infrastructure into each site plan. A housing cluster isn't complete unless it includes access to clean water, latrines, solar lighting, and a nearby school or clinic. The idea is to avoid building urban slums out of IDP return areas. Instead, they want to create mini republics of recovery, models of how rural communities can rise from ashes stronger than before. But perhaps the most radical part of this rebuilding wave is how ownership is being handled. For the first time, the government is piloting a certificate program that grants residents formal recognition of residency and land use. Many displaced families lost not only their homes, but also their legal existence, papers burned, and records destroyed. These new homes come with fresh documentation, meaning a return not just to physical space, but to full citizenship. Still, this mission is fragile. One bottleneck in supply chains, one mismanaged site, one case of corruption, and the momentum could collapse. That's why citizen oversight groups have been embedded in every project zone, armed with phones, checklists, and public transparency tools. If a home isn't built on time, the community can now raise the alarm directly to the ministry. There is no more hiding behind excuses. On the ground, people aren't waiting for speeches. They're moving bricks, lifting rebar, pouring foundations. Children run barefoot between unfinished walls, already treating them like home. The buzz of work is constant, but under it all is a quiet, emotional truth. These walls mean return. Return to normalcy, return to ownership. Return to a life where tomorrow isn't just about surviving, but planting a tree next to your new front door. When the dust finally settles over the newly constructed homes, when the last bag of cement is poured, the final roof installed, and the doors finally open, what comes next? That's the question quietly echoing across ministries, business boardrooms, and regional corridors right now. Because this moment, sparked by CIMAF's 1,000-ton donation, may not just rebuild Burkina Faso, it may be redefining how African nations respond to crises. For decades, the continent has followed a predictable pattern. Conflict erupts, populations flee, international agencies descend with aid packages, and a cycle of dependency hardens into routine. Camps become permanent. NGOs become gatekeepers. Governments become spectators in their recovery. But what's unfolding in Burkina Faso disrupts that rhythm completely. Here, the government didn't wait for a UN conference or a World Bank bailout. It called on its industries, mobilized its own people, and designed a recovery strategy from the inside out. That shift is radical. It's not just about homes, it's about ownership of the solution itself. And this may very well be the model Africa has been missing. the implications are massive. Across the Sahel, from Mali to Niger to Chad, governments are watching closely. Each of these countries faces a similar constellation of crises: violent insurgencies, massive displacement, weak infrastructure, and disillusioned populations. But if Burkina Faso can prove that domestic-led reconstruction is not only faster, but more trusted, more adaptable, and more resilient, then the model could spread. Already, policy circles in Ouagadougou are buzzing with talk of codifying this approach into a formal national doctrine. Proposals are being floated for a permanent reconstruction corps, a civilian public hybrid body that would partner directly with local companies in the aftermath of emergencies. No long grant cycles, no imported solutions, just immediate mobilization of domestic skills and materials. This isn't idealism, it's being driven by necessity. Western aid pipelines have slowed. Conditionalities have become political traps. Sanctions, dollar dependencies, and shrinking donor patience have made waiting for help a gamble that costs lives. In that vacuum, a self-sustaining model like Burkina Faso's becomes revolutionary. And yet, the strength of this model lies in more than just concrete and labor. It's philosophical. It centers the African citizen not as a recipient, but as a reconstructor. It erases the line between victim and builder. This changes how people view their role in nationhood. When someone helps build their own home with locally sourced cement, using a government plan designed in their language, it restores a sense of belonging that aid handouts can never offer. But with this new model comes new risks. If replication is rushed, without proper community input, without transparency mechanisms, without regional adaptation, it could collapse under its own ambition. That's why Burkina Faso must not only succeed, but document the journey. It must show the blueprints, the numbers, the mistakes, and the recoveries. It must tell the story not through donor reports, but through lived outcomes: children enrolled in rebuilt schools, farmers returning to irrigated fields, traders setting up new shops in reborn towns. International institutions, too, will have to decide how they engage with this paradigm. Will they feel threatened, or will they adapt? There's already quiet concern among some foreign agencies that if more African governments follow this path, the traditional aid architecture might become obsolete, at least in its current form. And perhaps that's the point. The goal was never to build parallel states. The goal was to help governments govern. Burkina Faso may be reminding them of that original promise. And what about the private sector? If CIMAF's bold move triggers a wave of similar interventions by energy companies, telecommunications providers, financial institutions, it could mark the dawn of a corporate patriotism era in Africa, where profits and public service are no longer kept separate. That's why this isn't just a story about cement. It's a prototype for sovereignty. The homes will stand. But what they represent, a political, economic, and psychological break from dependency, may endure far longer. Burkina Faso didn't just pour concrete. It poured a foundation under an entirely new idea: that African crises can be answered by African strength. And that's not just a model, that's a movement. If one cement donation can spark a national recovery model, what else could be rebuilt if every company stepped up? Let us know in the comments section. Is this the moment Africa finally stops waiting for help and starts helping itself on its own terms? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.